We are all hearing about rising government spending and debt, particularly after the pandemic. Big countries like the US, UK, and Germany afford to deal with expanding macroeconomic issues. But what about underdeveloped and developing nations? What about their debt problems? Well, we put our resources and work and discovered this very interesting thing. Many of these struggling countries have a common creditor, China. Over the last few decades, China has become the biggest cash lender to many countries. Majority of these loans are given under the Belt and Road Initiative scheme. This is a project that connects many countries from Asia, Africa, and Europe to China. According to HBR organization, China has lent nearly $1.5 trillion to 150 countries in the form of direct credit and loans. This has made China the world's largest official creditor, putting behind international institutions like the World Bank, the IMF, Paris Club, or all OECD creditor governments combined. But the problem begins when no official data exists on these massive loans. Much of the loans that China provides are at an undisclosed interest rates. China does not report on its international lending, and credit rating agencies focus on private creditors. China's lending is state-sponsored, and therefore off their radar screen. This raises concern. After the pandemic shock, countries that are under heavy Chinese loans experienced financial disturbance. While China's role in global trade is highly publicized and politically polarizing, its growing influence in international finance has remained more obscure, mostly due to a lack of data and transparency. That's why the terms and conditions of China's debt contract have come under the light of suspicion of many people. Many of these loans come with a lot of clauses. Clauses that make the Chinese loans look more like a merchant than a friend. Some data also shows that China tends to lend at market terms, meaning at interest rates that are close to those in private capital markets. Other official entities, such as the World Bank, typically lend at concessional, below market interest rates, and longer maturities. In addition, many Chinese loans are backed by collateral, meaning that debt repayments are secured by revenues, such as those coming from commodity exports. These clauses work as hidden debts and puts a lot of financial pressure on the receiver country. Another of China's suspicious habit is to provide tied loans for projects that lead to nowhere. China has invested in numerous projects around the world that really don't make sense. Either these projects don't create the expected employment in the country, or they simply become white elephants, large projects making no financial sense. These initiatives later only increase the debt burden of the receiving country, bringing in no good. We have seen some examples of how bad loans can hurt the country's economy. Take the example of Sri Lanka, where China built the deep water port of Hambantota. It was opened on the 18th of November 2010. The reason behind building this port was, Sri Lanka is situated along the key shipping route between the Malacca Straits and the Suez Canal, which links Asia and Europe. Around 36,000 ships, including 4,500 oil tankers, use the route yearly. Chinese succeeded in convincing the Sri Lankan government to accept debt for such a project. However, this project failed to deliver because it simply did not attract enough traffic. The Hambantota dream didn't quite work out as designed, and imposed a debt of $5 billion on the Sri Lankan government. Because building a completely new city and economy up from scratch in a remote area is very risky, without an accompanying industrial zone or other local businesses to drive demand. Hambantota's deep-sea port struggled to attract ships and cargo volumes as expected, hence China took over the port under a 99-year lease for just $1.5 billion. A similar case happened in Pakistan, where China is a major infrastructure building partner. A series of different projects were initiated under the CPEC, including roads, highways, railways, ports, and energy generation plants. China's ultimate role in Pakistan is to cut across the country to gain access to Pakistan's deep water harbor at Gwadar from the remote Chinese province of Xinjiang. And Pakistan was hoping that this project will help Pakistan's economy by creating employment and providing transit revenue. But this is not what is happening. These megaprojects are contributing to countries' rising debt rather than the economy. Many of the think tanks from the US say China's role in Pakistan is militarily more important rather than economically. The Gwadar port in Pakistan is slowly becoming a part of the Chinese Navy to gain control of much of the Indian Ocean and to counter its geopolitical rival India. But perhaps the largest investment China has made is in Africa. Almost all the nations in Africa are in debt of Chinese loans. China's total loans to Africa from 2000 to 18 have been approximately $148 billion, mostly in large-scale infrastructure projects. Africa naturally sees China as a good partner rather than other Western countries because of their anti-colonial mindset. And it is easier to get a loan from China rather than from the IMF, World Bank, or any other Western country. But again, rushing to get a loan easily doesn't necessarily mean it will be profitable. This rush to get money many times leads to negligence in the analysis of financial sustainability, social and environmental sustainability, and flawed cost-benefit analysis, which results in construction of projects which are not very profitable and just add to the debt of the country. That's why at least 18 African countries have been renegotiating their debts while 12 others are in talks with China for restricting an approximate $28 billion loan. Some experts believe that China's investment in Africa could be to gain their resources of them at cheap prices and moreover to gain political gain in the international organization like the UN. You see, massive infrastructure projects were supposed to create jobs in all these countries, but it is not happening as expected. This is because most of the workers come directly from China. China's deliberate attempt to finance projects which are doomed to fail is working quite well for themselves. According to the World Bank, of the $35 billion that the world's 74 lowest income nations will owe in debt service payments this year, about 37%, or $13.1 billion, is owed to Chinese entities. Chinese-owned debt suffers from a lack of transparency around the loans, including non-disclosure agreements attached to lending packages. This makes the deals hard to track. Looking at the overall picture, it seems China is not just a money lender, it is more of a strategic money lender with hidden agendas and obscure intentions. I hope that you enjoyed this video on the Chinese debt trap diplomacy. Do leave a like if enjoyed this video, comment down your suggestions. Share our videos for the sake of channel's growth, and subscribe to stay updated. Thanks for watching, see you in the next video.